The hotel manager picked up the reservation printout, looked at it once, and tore it in half. He dropped both pieces into the bin beneath the front desk and turned back to his screen. Across the marble counter, a woman in a second-hand winter coat gripped the strap of her shoulder bag and watched her name fall into the garbage. She didn't raise her voice. She reached into her pocket for her phone. Down the hall, a pair of glass doors marked executive offices swung open. Tobena Achike was still in his chef's whites when his phone rang. He had been in the middle of plating the amuse-bouche for a private dinner on the 14th floor, a consulate event. 60 covers, the kind of night that required every part of his attention. His sous chef had the pass. Everything was running. And then his sister's voice came through the phone and said 8 words that stopped him where he stood. "I'm downstairs. They said my booking doesn't exist." He set down the tweezers. He untied his apron. He didn't take the elevator. He took the stairs, 5 flights down. His kitchen clogs hit each step like a clock, counting down something that could not be undone. Because the hotel his sister was standing in, the one that had just turned her away at the front desk, the one that had torn up her reservation and told her to try somewhere else, was his hotel. He was the executive chef and co-owner of the Birch and Stone, one of the most reviewed boutique hotels in downtown Toronto. His name was on the menu in every room, and his sister's name, the name they had just thrown in the bin, was on the deed of this building, on the original partnership agreement, on the founding documents, filed with the Ontario Ministry of Government and Consumer Services 11 years ago. She had signed this hotel into existence before it had a single guest. The front desk manager had been standing 3 feet from her signature for 2 years. He had never thought to read it. If you have ever watched someone underestimate the wrong person and lived to see what happened next, stay with me. Hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because what is about to happen in this lobby will stay with you for a very long time. But first, let me take you back to this morning. Nika Achike was 34 years old, and she had driven 4 hours from Sudbury in a snowstorm for this. She drove a 2014 Honda Civic with a cracked rear bumper and a heating system that worked on the driver's side only. She had duct-taped a fleece blanket over the gap in the passenger window seal. The car smelled like the jollof she had made the night before, packed in a container in the back seat for her brother, because Tobena always said nobody in Toronto made jollof like she did, and she had never found a reason to prove him wrong. She was not a small woman, but she dressed like someone who had learned to take up as little space as possible. A gray wool coat she had bought at Value Village 3 winters ago. Dark jeans worn at the knees. Black boots, the left heel slightly lower than the right from years of uneven sidewalks. A green head wrap she had tied herself that morning in the dark of her Sudbury apartment at 5 a.m. so she could get on the road before the weather turned. Her face was round and warm, high cheekbones, a gap between her 2 front teeth that she used to hate and had long since stopped thinking about. Her hands were thick-knuckled from work. She cleaned offices at night and drove seniors to appointments during the day for a home care agency that paid her $14 an hour and had not given her a raise in 3 years. She had not taken a single day off in 11 months. This weekend was the exception. Tobena had called her in October. "Come for New Year's," he said. "I'll book you a room at the hotel." "Nice room. You've never stayed here. You should stay here," she had argued. She had said she didn't need that. She could sleep on his couch. He didn't have to spend the money. He had laughed. "Naneka, I own part of the hotel. Let me do this for you." She had agreed. She had circled January 1st on her calendar with a red marker and looked at it every day for 11 weeks. She arrived at the Birch and Stone at 2:47 p.m. The lobby smelled like cedar and warm bread. The floors were black marble. A string quartet was playing softly near the fireplace in the lounge. There were people in cashmere, and people with matching luggage sets, and people who moved through the world like it had been arranged for them. Neka walked through the revolving door, carrying a duffel bag over one shoulder and a container of jollof in both hands, and she felt, for one moment, like she had walked into the wrong place. But Tobena had booked her room. She had the confirmation number in her phone. She walked to the front desk. Behind the counter stood Garrett Pell, 31 years old, sandy hair, sharp jaw, pressed white shirt with the hotel crest on the breast pocket. He had worked the front desk at the Birch and Stone for 2 years. He was fast with a keyboard, fluent in the hotel's loyalty program, and had an instinct for reading guests that he believed was a skill and was, in fact, a bias. He looked at Neka. He took in the Value Village coat, the worn boots, the jollof container, the duffel bag. He did not smile. Checking in? Yes. Naneka Achike. I have a reservation. He typed. He frowned. He typed again. He clicked something, frowned again, typed. I'm not finding anything under that name. It should be there. My brother booked it. Tobena Achike. He co-owns the hotel. Garrett looked up. A brief pause. The kind of pause that takes less than 2 seconds and says everything. He looked at her coat. He looked at the jollof. He looked back at his screen. Ma'am, I don't have any record of a reservation under either of those names. Do you have a confirmation number? She shifted the jollof to one arm and pulled out her phone. She found the email. She read him the number. He typed it in. He looked at his screen. Something moved behind his eyes. Recognition, then a decision. I'm sorry, ma'am, but this confirmation is flagged in our system. It looks like it may have been issued in error. These things happen sometimes when a booking comes through an internal account rather than the standard reservation portal. We don't have a room available to honor it. It was booked by the co-owner of the hotel. I understand that, but without a valid confirmation that clears our system, I can't process a check-in. We're fully booked for New Year's. I wouldn't be able to place you even if I wanted to. He paused. He softened his voice slightly, the way people do when they have already decided and want you to feel like they haven't. There's a Comfort Inn about 12 minutes away. I'd be happy to call them and see if they have availability. It's a perfectly decent option. The Comfort Inn 12 minutes away. For a woman who had driven 4 hours in a snowstorm to stay in the hotel her name was on. I would like to speak to the manager, Nanika said. I am the front desk manager. Then, I would like to speak to the general manager. Garrett clicked something. She's in a meeting right now. I can leave a message for her to call you. He reached into a tray beside his keyboard. He pulled out the printed reservation she had given him. She had printed it at the library in Sudbury, just in case, because she had learned a long time ago to have things in writing. He looked at it once. He tore it down the middle. He dropped both halves in the bin. I'm sorry I can't do more, he said. He turned back to his screen. The lobby was not empty. Near the fireplace, a man in a turtleneck was watching over his newspaper. A family with 2 small children had paused near the luggage cart. The concierge, a young Ghanaian-Canadian woman named Adwoa, who had started at the hotel 8 months ago, was standing at her station 15 feet away. She had heard everything. Her jaw was tight. Her hands were flat on the desk. Neka stood at the counter for a moment. She did not argue. She did not raise her voice. She reached into her bag and she took out her phone, and she called her brother. He answered on the second ring. Neka, are you here? I'm still upstairs. Dinner service starts in 3 hours, but I can come down at... Tobena. Her voice was quiet. I'm at the front desk. They say my reservation doesn't exist. The manager tore up my printout and told me to try the Comfort Inn. The silence that followed was not empty. Which desk manager? Garrett something. Don't move. I'm coming down right now. Tobena Achike was 38 years old, and he had built this hotel from a conversation at a kitchen table. He had grown up in Oshawa, the second of 4 children of Nigerian immigrants. His father a transit worker, his mother a personal support worker, who did double shifts 3 days a week for 17 years, and never once complained about it, not to her children, not to anyone. He had started cooking at 14, working weekends at a Ghanaian restaurant in Scarborough for cash, learning to do in an hour what took other people an afternoon, learning that food was not just sustenance, but memory and dignity and care, all of it delivered on a plate. He had gone to George Brown for culinary arts. He had worked his way through kitchens in Toronto and Montreal, and 2 years in London. He had come back to Toronto at 29 with a business plan, and exactly 2 people who believed in it enough to sign their names to it. One of them was his sister. Nneka had not invested money. She didn't have money to invest. What she had was something harder to come by. She had believed him before the numbers made sense. She had sat at his kitchen table in 2013 and read every page of his business plan with a red pen in her hand and asked the questions the bank would ask, made him answer them again, until the answers were airtight. She had co-signed the original partnership agreement because the legal structure required a second named partner. And Tobena had looked at everyone he knew, and there was only one person whose judgment he trusted without reservation. He hadn't been able to pay her back in money. The hotel had taken 6 years to turn a real profit. He had offered her shares. She had waved them off. "You'll take care of me when you can," she said. "That's how it works in this family." He paid her rent for 2 years when things were thin. He paid off her car. He called her every Sunday. He did not take the elevator. He pushed through the stairwell door and took the stairs 2 at a time. 5 flights, his chef's whites still on, his kitchen clogs loud on the concrete steps. He hit the lobby level. He pushed through the door into the main hall. The concierge looked up and her eyes went wide. She had never seen him move like this. She pointed, without being asked, toward the front desk. He came around the corner. Nneka was standing where he had told her to stand, bag on her shoulder, jollof in her hands, back straight. She looked at him when he came around the corner. She looked at him the way she had looked at him their whole lives, like she was still the older sibling even though she wasn't, like she had everything handled even when she didn't. He crossed the lobby to her. He put both hands on her shoulders. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I've been standing here for 20 minutes. He turned to the desk. Garrett looked up. He recognized Tobena immediately. Everyone on staff recognized him. He was in the building most days of the week. His face was on the website. A new expression moved across Garrett's face, the fast recalibration of someone who understood that the situation had changed. "Chef Achike," he said. He used the title like a tool. "I was just helping this guest. This is my sister," Tobena said. Silence. "I booked her a room in October. Confirmation number ending in 7743. I booked it through the internal owner's account, which I have used 14 times in the past 2 years without issue. She arrived with a printed confirmation. You told her the booking didn't exist. You told her to try the Comfort Inn." He paused. "And then you tore up her reservation and put it in the bin." Garrett's professional composure held for another 2 seconds. There was a system flag. "Show me." "I'm sorry. Show me the flag. Pull up the booking right now and show me where it says it was issued in error." Garrett turned to the screen. His fingers moved over the keyboard. He clicked. He clicked again. His face changed. There was no flag. The reservation was there. It had always been there. Room 812, king bed, city view, 2 nights. Complimentary upgrade applied by the system automatically to owner-linked bookings. It was sitting in the system exactly as it had been booked. Garrett said nothing. There is no flag, Tobena said. Not a question. Garrett's hands came off the keyboard. Chefachike, I may have made an error in reading the... You made a decision. Tobena's voice was the same temperature it had been since he walked in. He did not raise it. Some people get loud when they are angry. Tobena Achike got still. You looked at my sister and you made a decision before you finished typing. You told her the room didn't exist. You suggested a comfort inn, and when she didn't leave, you tore up her confirmation and put it in the bin. He reached past Garrett into the bin beneath the desk and lifted out both halves of the printout. He held them up. He held them so the lobby could see. The man by the fireplace had lowered his newspaper. The family near the luggage cart had stopped moving. Adwoa at the concierge desk was standing very still. Tobena set the two halves on the counter. My sister drove 4 hours from Sudbury in a snowstorm. She has cleaned offices at night for 11 months without a day off, so she could send money home and save enough to take this one weekend for herself. She is a named co-founder of this hotel. Her name is on the original partnership agreement in the management office 2 floors above us. He looked at Garrett. Her name is also on the framed copy on the wall directly behind you. Garrett turned. Slowly. On the wall behind the front desk, between a shadow box of the hotel's first room key and a black and white photograph of the building's original facade, there was a framed document. It was not small. It was A3 size, matted in dark wood, the text printed in a clean serif font. The Birch and Stone Founding Partnership, Toronto, Ontario 2013, 2 signatures at the bottom, Tobena O. Achike, and beside it, Neka C. Achike. Garrett stared at it. He had walked past it every day for 2 years. His hand went to the counter. I didn't. He started. Tobena. Naneka's voice. Quiet. From behind him. He turned. She had set the jollof down on the edge of the counter. Carefully, upright. She was looking at Garrett with the expression she used when she was about to say something she had already thought all the way through. Bring him here, she said. Tobena looked at his sister. He knew that voice. He stepped aside. Come around the desk, Naneka said to Garrett. Garrett looked at Tobena. Tobena said nothing. Garrett came around the front desk. He stood in the lobby, in front of the woman he had sent to the Comfort Inn in his pressed shirt with the hotel crest on the breast pocket, the crest she had helped design. Sit down, Neka said. There was a chair near the fireplace. Garrett walked to it and sat. Naneka stayed where she was. She didn't move toward him. She didn't need to. How long have you worked here? 2 years. In those 2 years, did anyone ever tell you who founded this hotel? I knew Chef Achike. Did anyone ever tell you about the other founder? Garrett was quiet. No, he said. That's not your fault, Naneka said. But this is. You looked at my coat, and you decided what kind of guest I was before I finished telling you my name. That calculation took you about 3 seconds, and you made it without thinking because you have made it so many times it doesn't feel like a choice anymore. It feels like reading a room. She paused. You were not reading the room, you were reading my coat. Garrett's jaw moved. He didn't speak. I am not angry because of who I am, Naneka said. I am telling you this because of who the next woman will be. The one who comes in after me, in a coat like mine, with a bag like this, without a brother who co-owns the hotel. That woman will stand at your desk, and you will make the same calculation, and you will send her to the Comfort Inn, and she will go, because she won't have anywhere else to go, and she will carry that with her. She looked at him for a moment. The fireplace crackled behind him. The string quartet had stopped playing. My mother worked as a PSW for 17 years, she said. Double shifts. She wore the same winter boots for 6 years because she was paying our school fees. If she had walked through those doors today, you would have torn up her reservation, too. Garrett's eyes were wet. He looked at the floor. Tobena stepped forward. Garrett. No. Naka's hand, the same small motion. Not yet. She walked to the chair across from him and sat down. The lobby watched. Nobody moved. What do you want to do? She asked him. Direct, not rhetorical. He looked up. I don't know how to fix this, he said. You fix it the way you fix most things, she said. One person at a time, starting with the next person who walks through those doors looking like they don't belong. She leaned forward slightly. They belong. Everyone who walks through a door asking for help belongs. That is the whole point of a door. Tobena was watching his sister. He had watched her his entire life, across a kitchen table in Oshawa, across the table at the bank, across 11 years of Sunday phone calls, and he had never once seen her be anything other than exactly this. The person who could have burned something down and chose instead to build something from it. He made a decision. Garrett, he said, you are on a formal warning. That goes on record today. He paused. You will also spend the next 30 days at the front desk with a specific instruction. Every guest who checks in, every single one, you will look at them before you look at the screen. You will greet them first. You will get their name before you touch the keyboard. You will not make any assessment before they finish their first sentence. He looked at his sister. She gave the smallest nod. At the end of 30 days, you and I will have a conversation about whether you want to keep working here. And it will not be about the reservation. It will be about whether you understand why this matters. Garrett nodded. He was not crying, but he was close. Yes, chef. Tobena turned to the lobby. Adwoa. The concierge straightened. Yes? Can you take my sister up to 812? Absolutely. She came around her station immediately. She picked up Naneka's duffel bag before Naneka could reach for it. Right this way, ma'am. The elevator's just here. Neka stood. She picked up the jollof. I brought you food, she said to Tobena. He almost laughed. You drove 4 hours in a blizzard, and you brought me jollof. Someone has to feed you properly. She's handed him the container. It's in the car. There's more. Cold by now. You have a kitchen. I have the best kitchen in the city. Then you can reheat it without embarrassing yourself. She looked at him for a moment, her brother in his chef's whites, in the lobby of the hotel they had both built, in the way you build things. Him with his hands and his years in professional kitchens. Her with a red pen at a kitchen table in Oshawa and a signature at the bottom of a document and 11 months of night shifts that she had never once complained about, not to him, not to anyone. You didn't have to come down, she said. Of course I did. I could have handled it. I know you could have. He held the jollof with both hands, the warmth of it coming through the container. But you shouldn't have to. Adwoa was waiting at the elevator. Naneka walked toward it. At the elevator doors, she stopped. She turned back to the lobby, to the man by the fireplace who had watched everything, to the family near the luggage cart, to Garrett, still sitting in the chair by the fire, to the two halves of her confirmation sitting on the marble counter. I came here today as my brother's sister, she said, not as a co-founder, not to make a point. I packed my bag, and I drove through the snow, because I was tired and I had not had a weekend off in almost a year, and my brother said, come, so I came. She looked at the lobby the way someone looks at something they helped build a long time ago and have not seen up close since. And I learned that in the hotel I helped start, a tired woman in a secondhand coat is not a guest. She is a problem to be redirected. Her hand rested on the elevator door frame. That ends today, not because of who I am, because of who she is. Every woman who walks through that door in a coat like mine. She is tired. She has been driving a long time. She has been working a long time. And she is asking for a room. The elevator opened. That should be enough. That has always been enough. She stepped in. Adwoa followed. The doors closed. The lobby was quiet. Tabena stood holding a container of cold jollof in both hands. He looked at the framed document on the wall. 2 signatures. He had looked at that frame every day for 2 years. He had never thought about whether anyone else was reading it. He thought about it now. He set the jollof on the front desk. He picked up both halves of the reservation printout. He held them together. The name in the center, Nneka C. Achike. He placed them carefully beside the frame. Not in the bin, not in a drawer, beside the frame where they could be seen. Then he went back to his kitchen. He reheated the jollof himself at the corner burner, low heat, lid on. He did not delegate it. Some things you do yourself. His sous chef glanced over. "Everything okay down there?" "It is now," Tabena said. Upstairs, in room 812, Nneka Achike set her duffel bag on the luggage rack and stood at the window for a moment. Toronto in January, the lake frozen gray at the edges, the city lit up and cold and enormous. She had not seen it from this high in a long time. She was very tired. She sat on the edge of the bed. She lay back against the pillows. She was asleep in 4 minutes. In the lobby, Adwoa returned to her station. She straightened the brochures on her desk. She looked at the framed document on the wall. She had never really read it either. Not all the way through, not the signatures at the bottom. She read it now. And for the rest of her shift and every shift after it, every guest who came through the door got the same thing from Adwoa before they reached the front desk. Not a form, not a loyalty card, not a key, just her eyes, looking up, and her voice, clear and warm. "Welcome. I'm glad you made it." That is the story of a second-hand coat, a container of jollof rice, and a torn piece of paper. They looked at her coat and saw someone who couldn't afford to be there. They looked at her bag and saw someone who had come to the wrong place. They looked at her confirmation and saw a problem to be resolved by the door. But the woman standing at that counter had co-signed a hotel into existence with nothing but belief and a red pen. She had worked night shifts for 11 months and never told her brother how hard it was. She had driven 4 hours in a snowstorm and brought him food because that is what she did. She showed up, she fed people, she held things together without asking to be noticed for it. And when she had every reason to bring the whole thing down, she chose instead to leave it better than she found it. Because that is what people like Nneka Achike do. They don't just build things, they teach you how to take care of them.